All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and we are finally here. We have a field of four for the college football playoff and a bunch of bowl games, some meaningless, some pretty darn good matchups. But I'm joined by my co-host, the man who is the expert at finding leopards in the jungle. Yes, that he can spot them from a mile away. My co-host, Fresh. Fresh, how you doing?
Haps doing pretty good. It's a very eventful conference championship weekend. Finally got the rankings out, and if y'all didn't know, we do have a podcast divided for the next 27, 28 days. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be thrilling. Going to be nerve-wracking, but ready to go.
Fresh, just like in Encanto, we don't talk about Bruno right now. We're not going to talk about that anytime soon, right now.
Now we'll save that treat for the very end.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. So let's get right into like the action from this weekend. We got to start at that Big 12 championship game. Kansas State, TCU, best game of the weekend, obviously. I mean, before we even go into anything else, I mean, I don't even care. Let's throw out the winners, losers thing, what have you. But that game was absolutely incredible. Like, I went back and I watched the condensed version as well when I got back into town today. And the thing that stuck out to me was Max Duggan. Like, dude, I know he was in the losing effort of this game, but folks, if you haven't seen Max Duggan play in this game, like this kid tried to put TCU on his back, and while Sonny Dykes didn't call at least one quarterback keeper, now I'll argue. To me, it looked like Miller got in when he extended the ball on the goal line in that first overtime. I don't know why you don't take another look at that. Again, that's me. I'm not there. I'm not one of the officials. I'm not there on the field. But man, TCU put up a valiant effort. Great job out of K-State too, because Will Howard absolutely balled out in that game, and so did Deuce Vaughn. Deuce Vaughn showed how good of a running back he is and why he's considered one of the best running backs in the country. But Fresh, I'll go to you, man. I have K-State TCU as the best game of the weekend. What say you?
I mean, hands down was the best, going back and forth, battling all the way. K-State did not shy away from the opportunity or the competition. This one, they brought it all. Will Howard and Deuce were clicking early, and the defense made some plays. Max Duggan might have won himself the Heisman, maybe even got himself into like second place. Literally left it out on the field, everything he possibly had. The poor guy was sucking air at the very end. His body was all hurt. He gave everything for TCU that day. You could definitely tell that early in the football game, first quarter, maybe early mid of the second quarter, he was a little high on a lot of throws. Definitely some jitters, but that second half, he definitely settled in and was playing natural, and really gave them a chance. If he was fully locked in and from the very beginning, I think they would have obviously won the football game. But it was a great battle. 2 years in a row, it's come down to millimeters on the goal line between touchdowns being in or out, and that's just dramatic TV kicking off. Both games being the first in the opening window. That the past years really just gets everybody fired up and titillated for the rest of the afternoon. And playoff spots were on the line. Unlike last year though, this situation TCU was not denied, and they got a bid in. But it was a great football game. Two really good football teams, and you know you just wish that game could have kept going.
Yeah, it was one of the best games that I think we watched all season long. I was sitting there and I was driving home from Orlando this today, and I kept thinking to myself, going, "What game this season was better than that one?" And I know like it's a little more amped up because you're playing for the college football playoff and you're playing for the Big 12 title. The Tennessee Alabama game came into my mind on that one. Um, maybe the LSU Alabama game. I was really sitting there trying to go through my mind and going, what game this season did I watch that was better than this one? And I really, at the end of it, came down to it that this was the best game of the season.
Yeah, you have to factor in implications. It's not just a game in September where you go to 4 or 5 overtimes and you sort of settle it out. Um, when you have so many things on the line, potentially a Heisman Trophy, a playoff spot, a conference title, That makes the implications and the every play count and weigh so much more, and that's why I think it's the best game, just because it lived up to the hype. Because if you saw, there was other games this weekend, and that the competition wasn't exactly even across the board.
Yeah. And what a soft take. I saw this too, we were out there on Twitter land and I heard some other people kind of say this. It was a soft take to think that like people were like, oh, TCU is and Kansas State weren't good football teams. So it's like it's absolutely ridiculous and proves that you didn't watch a second of that game because I walked away from watching that game. I don't know what's going to happen in the playoff. I don't know what's going to happen in bowl season. But I walked away having a high level of respect for the TCU program and for Kansas State as well.
I mean, you look at it, their only loss was by 3 in overtime in the conference championship game. There's a team in other places around the country that have had bigger losses by more points and to lesser opponents. So we can you play the what if game all you want and pull it back, but they were there 12-0, go in and lose by 3 in overtime. That's a pretty impressive football team. And K-State has played great all year as well, and it just shows that there was a lot of talented teams in the Big 12 this year, and these two got to represent for the title, and it paid off.
All right, Fresh. Well, let's go to a school that people are arguing that it didn't pay off for them to play in the conference championship game. Let's go out to the Pac-12 and out to Las Vegas. Talk to me a little about Utah USC, man. That was a great game on Friday night. And wow, did Utah ever put the boots to USC in the end? 23 points in the fourth quarter by the Utes.
Well, first off, physical defense, physical offense makes up for flashy offense. Lincoln Riley is who he has been for in every single example. That game actually, I didn't. I said in the preview, and it proved noteworthy as the game went on that it reminded me of the Georgia Oklahoma Rose Bowl, where they came out flashy offense, got a lot of points early, and then as the game wore on, they couldn't stop the run. Physical line of scrimmage on both sides by the Utes replicated what Georgia did. They fought themselves back in, and then in the fourth quarter, they held themselves to a victory. Um, uh, Definitely, though, shame on Lincoln Riley and that USC staff for running Caleb Williams out there when he already popped his hamstring. The poor guy pops his hamstring, and you keep running him out there. We got to protect the players too. Sometimes you got to protect them for yourself. I know you're playing for a conference championship and potentially a bid, but what if that poor guy goes out there and gets damaged even worse and loses an NFL career, maybe loses another season because you want to keep running him out there in that football game? You've got to understand the guy could not protect himself in that field. The offense was limited. He was vulnerable at all cases. He couldn't even barely move. That right there seemed very jealous. Very not jealous, probably the wrong word. It's just
Short-sighted.
very short sighted. Like, look, it's a conference championship game, but that guy's career and your career at USC is tied in with him. If he doesn't come back next year, if he's hurt the entire year, you've lost a year, and now you're pushing all the way down the road over what? Because that football team, if they made it in the playoff anyway, yeah, you might have won the Pac-12. That'd been all great. You would have gotten the trash whooped by. You would have gotten destroyed by Michigan or Georgia if you had played them in the playoff. That offense, the offensive line was awful. They got dominated by Utah the entire football game. The defense is porous. If they played anybody else, they would have gotten annihilated. I think the blessing was that he's okay. He's somewhat okay. Probably not going to play in the Cotton Bowl, but they didn't get embarrassed on a bigger stage by winning that. They understand where they are. They had a great season USC. They got to where they had to get in the Pac-12 title game. Um, but they've got to understand they've got to be tougher on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and they've also got to look at I've got to value my players. I've got to show them I care for them. If they are hurt, I've got to actually protect them a little bit. That right there stuck out to me is why you keep running this poor kid out there. He is your only hope. The offensive line wasn't protecting anybody. They couldn't run the ball without him. But if that kid got hurt even more, how do you live with yourself in that perspective where you knew he was already running on one bad leg? Um, it, it just shows that you're a little more selfish. That's probably the word I should have used earlier. Selfish in that perspective. I'm going to keep running this kid out there, and I'm going to try to win a football game when the guy can't protect himself. You're not on the field. You're sitting there on the sideline with your little visor in your headset. You got to start thinking a bigger picture of this kid long run. Because you know what? In this day and age of NIL, if he's feeling, hey, the coach doesn't care about my health. I'm going to sit out next year. I'm going to take a year off, get myself healthy, and go to the league because I know the coach is going to run me out there and use me for his advantage and not for me and my own personal ability. That's what stuck with me. Um, it You kind of saw it early in the first half, and the same thing with the LSU game. We'll get to that later with Jaden Daniels, but Brian Kelly pulled him out. But you can't keep running these injured kids out there. You've got to protect the players. Somebody's got to protect for themselves. USC, you've got to find a better offensive line. You've got to find more tougher players in that front seven because Utah, as the game wore out, your depth in that team and your toughness was non-existent, and you got smoked. Um, Kyle Willingham, that Utah football team, they are who they are. They are a dominant, tough, resilient football team, and they're going to show up and they're going to play a full 60 minutes. And they're going to punch you in the face. You might get a good punch in the first quarter, but they're going to be sitting there hitting you in the second, third, fourth, and that's a program-defining win. Again, back-to-back Pac-12 titles. Nobody gives them a chance, and they go out there and they do it. And in both years, they've beaten the team 2 times in a row. And actually, I think the second game obviously was much more dominant than the regular season meeting. Utah is a huge program. They get Penn State in the Rose Bowl. This is big time for them. But USC, you got a lot more growing to do. The flash is gone. And it's funny though. I'll end it with this. Both the Riley brothers, flashy offenses, and neither of them actually won their conference title game. Garrett Riley, Lincoln's brothers, the offensive coordinator at TCU, they didn't have that slow down offense to slow the pace down and protect the quarterback. They kept trying to chuck the ball a little bit too deep, and you saw the same thing with USC. A lot of trying to go deep too much instead of hitting the intermediate routes, trying to run the football, sometimes trying to manage the clock and save your defense. They got a little too greedy with their play calling and not thinking full 60-minute games, and it cost them in the end. Instead of, they were trying to be too aggressive, and sometimes you got to pull back on that throttle a little bit and find ways to manage the down and distance, get your first downs, keep your defense rested. And neither of them were able to do it. And it's becoming a problem consistently under that Riley philosophy of trying to get way too many big plays instead of managing. And so maybe sometimes getting a first down is better than getting a 40-yard touchdown.
Can we get past this idiotic idea that, well, he wanted to be out there, he wanted to play, and who am I to stop him from playing? Like, eventually, you got to be the adult in the room, and especially with all these coaches. I know it happens too often that we hear these coaches say, well, the player wanted to be out there, we can't, who am I to tell them that they can't play? Sometimes you have to protect the player. I know that there's money involved. I know that maybe sometimes you think that this player gives you the best chance of winning. But in the long run, I've tweaked my hamstring before. Now I don't ever claim to be the athlete that Caleb Williams is. But man, I tell you, trying just to walk like 3 days later was a chore with that hamstring. And I remember sitting there at a wedding and trying to like just dance a little bit at the wedding, and I was just every single moment was a lot of pain. I don't know how you play a college football game on a tweaked hamstring, even if it's just a minor hamstring pull. And when they start using the words significant hamstring injury, it gives me cause for a lot of pause of like, do you really have, when you sit there and you go into a living room and you go and tell a parent, I have your child's best interest in mind, and then I see you, continue to trot him out even after he's gotten injured. How can I believe you? How can I
Yeah.
believe you?
And even the training staff, like, why aren't they stepping in? Like, this guy can barely walk. It was obvious on TV. If you're watching it, he could barely move. And his gift is his legs. And that creates his arm strength, creates the vision down the field. And if you've taken that away and the guy can barely walk, like, it's not ideal.
Yeah. And Utah still got bulletin board material from you last year telling them that they're on a program on a fall there. So I think that's why
Yeah.
Utah's been back-to-back conference champions since you told them that they were about
Hey,
ready to
Kyle
fall into
Whittingham's like, hey,
oblivion.
that fresh guy's an idiot. I'm gonna make sure he understands it on a national scale.
Yeah, who's going to listen to a grown man named Fresh, the or someone at least think that might be a nickname? All right, let's take a look here real quick, Fresh. Going into some of the other conference championship games. Oh no, we want to get into the preview. There's only one major one I want to hit on, but go ahead. Any of these other games that you want to talk about?
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the Dogs. Winning an SEC championship, undefeated, 13-0. And I think the most impressive part, though, is You got 15 players drafted. You have 13 leave in the transfer portal. You don't bring any transfers in, and you're undefeated and number one ranked going into the playoff. You win the SEC. That's quite the accomplishment. And something that I think needs to be at least praised and understood that there's still a lot of work left to be done. But to be where they're at, where most people thought that program had a 1 year, one and done, and they had been gotten smoked, just shows that there's a development thing going on right now in Athens. And um, whether they win the title this year or they get beat by Ohio State or get beat in the national championship game, where they are now is the standard in the SEC, and they are moving it, and people are now looking at them as the target, and they have to get to their level.
Yeah. And it's sad because, you want to appreciate what they're doing, but the word that's going to come to my mind with SEC championship game, and I don't know when the last time we could use this for an SEC championship game, is boring. It became boring because you look at halftime, you're up 35-10. And this is when I start to push back on the whole, it just means more and tagline and like how great the SEC is. And this doesn't take anything away from Georgia because Georgia just completely smacked the living bejesus out of LSU and Brian Kelly. But if you want to talk about the parity within this league and and how great the SEC West is, you're not down 35-10 at halftime. You're just not. You man up and you do something more than this. Georgia came to play. That doesn't take Georgia proved that they're not only the number one team in the country, number one team in the playoff. They proved without a shadow of a doubt that it is. But you just expected so much more out of LSU to at least be competitive at halftime.
Well, I think this is the reason why you're getting rid of divisions across the spectrum. I mean, the Big Ten's going to try to get rid of divisions. They've talked about it. The SEC's trying, because you do get these things where the tiebreakers come into place. If you get a win earlier on and things sort of shift out, where you have to have a team from the West, and um, I mean, this was not. We knew there was a talent gap coming into this football game, and they beat Alabama by 2 points on a 2 point conversion, or 1 point, excuse me. And if that ball is incomplete, it's Alabama versus Georgia playing for the title. It might be a different game, just depending on matchups, the way it all is. But Jaden Daniels did re-aggravate that ankle pretty early on in the football game, and he was removed, and it was kind of out of control. But that defense for LSU, which should have been the stronger unit of the team, they got smoked. Definitely, Brian Kelly's got to get themselves focused. But I see what you're saying, But hey, if it was Tennessee in there, it would probably have been a greater game. But you got to play for your divisions, just like we would have had an Ohio State Michigan, championship game if there was no divisions of the Big Ten instead of Purdue has 4 losses. So it is just the way it is, and you play it out. You got to play the team across from you.
Yeah, it would have been 10. So I had someone look into it with all the tiebreakers. If it would have been divisionless, Georgia would have played Tennessee due to the head-to-head matchups there. But again, it comes down to it. Yeah, I get it. There's some great football being played. That's not taking away from that piece as well. But I expected, eventually Georgia to run away with this game. I did. I expected you guys to run away. My biggest thing is I didn't expect it to be a runaway with where I could go, okay, I can tune out at halftime. I didn't expect that one. So great. Again, great job out of Georgia. Nothing to take away against the Bulldogs. It really is more or less maybe I'm starting to question what's underneath Georgia. And I think that's where I start to go, okay, wait, hold on here. Let's
Well, the
let's
Big
take
Ten's
this.
a 3-team league, and that's it. The
I
Big Ten's a
agree.
3-team league, and that's it.
I'm not. No, we're not talking about Big Ten here right now,
But that's
Fresh.
where you're trying to lead at this point. You're trying
No,
to say
I'm
that
actually not. But I'm moving to somewhere else here because that's not the game I want to talk about. I actually want to talk about what happened out there in the Mountain West. Fresno State going into Boise and beating the crap out of Boise. Where they completely dominated that entire game on the defensive end. So I don't know where you're going with that on the Big Ten there, and we can circle back to that. But what I'm going into is Fresno State, where they're struggling to move the ball all day long, wound up just kind of shutting down the Boise State Broncos. I know Boise got some late points there, but you saw that this game went back and forth, and Boise State had negative rushing yards for a good chunk of this game until the later half there. Or I'm sorry, Fresno State had negative rushing yards until later on, and then Mims kind of takes over, has a big game later in the afternoon there. But I was impressed by Fresno State, man. I really was. The fact that, we did pick them to win. We did say that they were going to win this game and come walk away with the Mountain West title. But, I didn't think that we would be looking at a 12-point win by the Bulldogs here.
Yeah, they smoked in the second half. It was a great full on effort, and that Bronco team. I think that dominance, though, who they are and the name and the blue turf is kind of starting to wear off. Maybe that was the first real chink in the armor there, where they are not who they used to be. And Fresno State taking advantage of every opportunity they were given, going on the road and putting it down. A great way for Jake Hayner, which potentially could be his last game. I don't know if he's going to play in the bowl game there in Vegas, but way to sort of wrap up your career at Fresno State. You came back, you get yourself a championship, and leave the program in better space than where it was when you got there.
Yeah, and I really was impressed by Fresno State's defense more than anything else here, Fresh, because Taylon Green really carved up Fresno in the first meeting. He completes less than 50% of his passes and throws 2 interceptions on the day. And even his average is down to 4.6 yards per pass on that one. I don't know. I just walked away going, huh. That was really more of a vindication of where Fresno State is, that they were 1-4 after that loss to Boise State. They've won 8 straight. I love it. I love what they're doing in Fresno, and Jordan Mims also, kind of plugging away, struggled all day long until finally really came to play in the fourth quarter there.
Yeah, it was a pretty strong effort and a lot of fun out there, and it's just good to see a little more than the same team win every single year in the Mountain West, and showing there's opportunities for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Fresh. Where else you want to go, or you want to get to the playoff?
Let's talk about UTSA Roadrunners, back-to-back Conference USA champions. Really built a powerhouse there, and using the Alamo Dome as a nice little fortress. And they, the Green Wave had a little bit of glimmer in the first quarter, and then from there on, the Roadrunners and Frank Harris just took off. And it's sad to see Frank Harris graduate, but he has definitely turned that program, made them a true powerhouse in the state of Texas and in the Conference USA rankings, moving on to a different league, next year. But they are in great shape building that coach trailer there, and they have done a great job of building a foundation, using your playmakers, recruiting the state of Texas, and not just beating people, but dominating people and showing that you're really a threat. It was exciting, and actually the funny part is, now they get a great bowl matchup of the Sun Belt champion Troy Trojans. So they got 2 conference titles. Both teams are ranked in the top 25. But really putting them on the map and playing themselves as a true program that's going to be built not just for a 2-year blip, but going forward in a long time at UTSA.
Yeah. So, and Mean Green Wave won.
That's
Green
right. Tulane won and Mean Green, same thing.
Well, because I was
it's the color green.
Color
it's
green.
All Christmas.
Yeah, there you go. But Tulane Green Wave 2 on there, and specifically Tajay Spears and Michael Pratt on there. I know that we all talked about this as John Rice Plumlee, and kid balled out, but didn't have the same effect on the ground. Tulane did a great job against the Knights, beating UCF there and holding Plumlee to very low yards rushing. But talk about Tajay Spears just completely dominating, 9 yards to carry, 199 yards on 22 carries, 1 touchdown. And then Michael Pratt, 394 in the air, 4 touchdowns, and adding another one on the ground. I thought that this game also would be closer. And I know there's 17-7 at halftime. and then end at 45-28. Wow. Tulane, you want to talk about programs setting themselves up because, in a year from now, UCF is out of the conference. Cincinnati's gone. Houston's gone. Tulane is sitting there in the American going, we're going to be the king of the mountain for a little bit here.
I mean, you have those opportunities. It's a great little exit gift too. It's like, hey, you want to leave? All right, we'll take care of business and dominate. Um, if you looked at the first game when they matched up early on in the season a couple weeks ago, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, they kind of struggled. I think they kind of got awestruck in the beginning of, hey, we're ranked, we're at home, we have a lot in front of us, and they let UCF get ahead of them early, and they clawed back on the second half, made it a football game. They just didn't have enough juice. They ran out of time. This time, they knew, hey, look, we are a better football team than we were a couple weeks ago, and we're at home again. We have everything in front of us. Let's go take care of business, and they did. I was wrong. I thought John Rush Plumlee, I thought Gus Malzahn would have had a little more form, been a little more prepared, and they had no answer for Tulane. And that Tulane offense was just racking up points. They had beaten them down in the second half. They just poured it on, and it's a great statement of they are not just a 1-year team, and it's gonna be exciting to see what they do next year and going on using this bowl experience of being the best group of 5 and getting a chance to take on USC in the Cotton Bowl and get that national stage and how that does for recruiting and the program just itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm intrigued to see where Tulane takes this year because Pratt and Spears are both juniors. I would guess Spears' draft stock is never going to be higher, so he might be piecing out after this year, but Pratt will definitely be back next year. So great job out of Tulane. Great season for them. All right, Fresh. Anywhere else, or do you want to get to bowl season here?
Let's roll into bowl season.
All right, let's get out of here. So matchups here. I know college football playoff will Ohio State, Georgia in the Peach Bowl, Michigan, TCU in the Fiesta here. I know we're going to break down the playoff in long form. The biggest question was that everyone kind of seems to latch onto is USC getting the benefit, and I guess, the play on the field kind of made it up for me, but USC being punished for playing in the conference title game. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I see that in college basketball, if you play a conference championship game and you're the higher ranked team, or you're losing the second round or third round, usually your regular season resume gets you, that sort of supplants you as a higher seed. And the championship game of those tournaments, and that run for tournaments usually helps the team who probably didn't have it locked in, but wasn't the regular season champs, or just trying to work themselves into the tournament. But in college football, it doesn't seem to act that way sometimes, where it actually, I really want to know what that conversation was. If TCU had gotten blown out, if they didn't, come back and make it take it to overtime. Because at one point they were down by double digits. If they get smoked, does that knock them out? Obviously USC getting smoked by Utah got them knocked out. Where's the draw the line of what's the benefit of playing in the conference championship game? Is it only for just TV money and in the TV rights that people get to play there? If it is, then what's the point of even wanting to go play? Can you opt out, like you opt out of a bowl game? So you know what? I don't want to play for my conference championship because it's going to hurt me. I'm just going to worry about the playoff. If USC didn't lose by as bad as they did, I think they might have had a decent argument. But when you get beat like that, and then even, hey, same thing applies with Hendon Hooker not being there for Tennessee, and they take that into factor with Caleb Williams getting hurt, and probably not playing in the Cotton Bowl. They were trying to take that into a factor in account where if he's not playing, that's a totally different football team there at USC. His legs and his ability is what the deciding factor is in that offense. If he's not playing, that backup quarterback, that team is going to get destroyed. That kid might have a long afternoon back there under center. So those all will come into play. But if it's coming down to the point, if the playoff is going to expand, get rid of the title games, because that's one more football game that those teams have to play where other teams are taking the week off and getting healthy. The prime example, every single year that there's always, if there's situations where they come out where that one team does not have to play in a conference championship and they make the playoff, they get an extra week to get healthy. That's one less week the guys are getting beat up in the practice field. One less week they're getting beat up for 60 minutes or more in the football game. And you're able to come in a little fresher. You have an extra week game planning. It's it kind of detrimental. But it, USC, if they had lost by a touchdown, I think you could have made the argument they should have been in the playoff, but they got smoked in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and it's like a double-edged sword on this too, because if you sit there and you're the number 5 team or number 6, if you're just outside the playoff and then you get to play in a conference championship and you completely dominate, then the team that's sitting on the outside looking in going, well, yeah, of course you got to play for the conference. We didn't get to play for that, so it's not fair to us. And then the reverse, if I get smoked on the at the conference, well, you made me play an extra game. How dare you? It's a no win situation in this in conference title games, especially going into the playoff here.
And
I
what if
know
someone gets hurt in that game?
exactly.
Like, like
It's a double edged sword on that piece. I do wish that they maybe would have taken into consideration a few things. I don't think USC is one of the 4 best teams in the country. I, Especially you don't get boat raced by Utah in the fashion that they did and be able to lay claim that you need to be in the college football playoff. If anything, then all that stuff holds true, then Utah should puff out their chest and go, well, look, we should be in. I'm not saying Utah should be in. So, all right, Fresh, let's take a look at real quick bowl week here. Give me an early bowl game that you really like the matchup. Give me an early bowl matchup you really like.
well, I already alluded to the UTSA Troy matchup in the Cure Bowl, so I'll pass on that one. But give me Cincinnati Louisville in the Fenway Bowl. It's if Malik Cunningham is healthy, which I don't think he's going to even play, but even just the way that you have Louisville and Cincinnati, who it just has a good feel to it. Two programs who, two historic schools, both named after cities, and just a nice little, AAC, ACC matchup in Fenway Park. The whole environment there. Hopefully, get a little snow on the ground and playing in Fenway is gonna be a lot of fun. But I think that'll be a cool little matchup.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good one. I looked at that one. I liked the Louisville Cincinnati matchup. I think that could be an interesting matchup. The one I'm circling too, Fresh, that I kind of like on the 20th is the Boca Raton Bowl. I think that'll be entertaining as all get out to watch. I don't think there's going to be a lot of defense being played in that game, and that's Toledo versus Liberty. I think that both those schools are just going to look to try to put up points and not try to stop anyone. They're both, coming down from the north, be sitting in beautiful Boca Raton, which is way too hoity-toity for the likes of us. But you look at everything over there in Boca, and it's an absolute beautiful city here in Florida. I absolutely love visiting down there. I say it's hoity-toity, but it is a really nice place to hang out at. I think both of these schools are just going to be like, you know what? Let's just let it fly and let it loose there. I'm interested for that game.
I want to see just tons of points. Last year, that's Bailey. Last year, they've a lot of points in that game. Points in every single time they show up against teams just like to score. And they don't have like the theme parks there for your bowl week experience, but you have a beach. It's probably about 80 degrees, 75. It's a vacation. And it's a good reward for a long season.
Yeah, Boca is one of those nice places to go vacation. It's not Miami, but it's a little further north, so you don't have the hustle and bustle of Miami. But the beaches are very very nice there in Boca. All right, Fresh, give me another, like, maybe outside of the New Year's Six. Let me get another matchup from you. Which other bowl matchup are you digging?
Uh, I'm torn between the Oregon UNC Holiday Bowl or the Liberty Bowl between Kansas and Arkansas. I'm gonna just for fun and giggles, I'm gonna go the Kansas Arkansas Liberty Bowl because we're really gonna find out, is it Kansas or is it Arkansas? Who should truly own the moniker there and actually own the word Kansas. But I think in the Jayhawks there, the Razorbacks, you know, um, Lance Leopold and what that team is actually going to do, giving them a way to cap off their season. And the same Pittman, KJ Jefferson announced he's coming back next year, but where does the Razorback program go from here? They had a couple more losses this year than last year. They were in the four artists formerly known as the Outback Bowl, and now they're going to Liberty Bowl. It kind of falls like a down season for them, and a chance maybe them cap off and build up going forward to 23.
So there are two that jumps out at me, both on December 30th. And depending on what happens, there's one of them that, I was kicking around the idea. I might just go over and see it. Is first off, the Gator Bowl, Notre Dame versus South Carolina. For some reason, I really, really like this matchup. I don't know why. I think it's going to be entertaining as all get out. I think it's going to be amusing to see what Notre Dame does with South Carolina. I'm going to be interested to see if Spencer Rattler can kind of keep this hot streak going and lead him into next year and see if he can kind of pull himself off the mat and remake his name 2 years later. So I really like that matchup for the Gator Bowl. And then the other one, this is like a year too late matchup, and that's the Sun Bowl in El Paso, which I always feel like, please tell me like the Sun Bowl is like sponsored by like a salsa company. It needs to be,
It's
because I
Tony
feel like
Tiger,
that it
Frosted
should.
Flakes.
Is it really the Frosted Flakes Sun Bowl?
I believe
Kellogg's?
so.
That just doesn't fit. All right. Well, UCLA versus Pitt. I feel like it's a year too late, because I wish we could have had like Kenny Pickett versus DTR in that and Jordan Addison in that game. But still going to be fun, because Pitt had a really up and down, like kind of crazy year. UCLA had a great year and then kind of trailed off at the end there. But I think that will be an entertaining as all get out matchup there.
I mean, Sun Bowl is one of the older, bowls, been around for a long, long time. Nice little stadium in El Paso. That'd be a fun one. A lot of points. And but I do want to get back to your first one, the South Carolina Notre Dame. Us being here in Jacksonville, that game has not been sold out for a while, and the Gator Bowl has a rich history. So have a chance right there to have Notre Dame fans and a very energized South Carolina fan base coming to Jacksonville for that one. Rumors are it could be sold out, which would be huge for the Gator Bowl and for the city itself.
Yeah, it would be impressive. And, the Gator Bowl is always a fun one to go to, especially here in Jax. It's an interesting one. I don't know. Maybe if we'll see what we can do here, Fresh. We'll see if we wind up over there. Any other bowl games you want to talk about here, Fresh?
Well, we'll leave the New York Six alone, but how about Texas and Washington in the Alamo Bowl? This is Steve Sarkisian Bowl, actually. He coached at Washington. Now he's at Texas. Which offense shows up? Does Michael Penix and Kellen DeBoer's offense, they come out and there's like a send off and go against the Texas defense, or do we see a lot of opt outs from Texas and maybe Quinn Ewers having a chance to really show he's truly the quarterback? Because he struggled toward the end of the season. Hudson Card's already put himself in the transfer portal. Quinn Ewers, you got Archie Manning coming. Do you use this game as a way to supplant yourself as a quarterback going in, or do you keep the competition wide open and you struggle? It's going to be interesting to see how this game goes down in San Antonio.
Yeah, that's going to be a really good one. I forgot about that one too. I even also like the matchup over there in L.A., the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl, Washington State versus Fresno State. I like that one a lot too. And I would be remiss to not point this out, because I said this to my dad. I was talking to him. I said, this one made me laugh a little bit, that Florida and Oregon State are playing in the Vegas Bowl. I don't know why that struck me as funny, but
it's
tickled my funny bone.
It's funny. Someone, I saw someone who does local media here in Jacksonville. Was like, what could go wrong with Florida? An undisciplined team, players in the transfer portal left and right, a lot of discipline issues, and they're going to have a week in Vegas. What could go wrong for the Florida Gator football team? So everyone keep an eye on them.
Nothing.
I got a feeling there'll be some trouble when they get out to Sin City.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be a fun bowl season here, Fresh. We're going to kind of break this down for you, but one of my favorite episodes for us to do is going to come out next week, and that's going to be a sole focus on the Army-Navy game, something that is near and dear to Fresh's heart here. I've always loved that game as well, but we're going to focus a whole episode on the Army-Navy game coming up next week, so make sure you guys tune in and check this out. But you've been listening to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're part of Spinnable Sports, so make sure you go to spinnablesports.com. Yes, that is spinnablesports.com. Hit that like, subscribe button wherever you get your podcast from. Make sure you guys leave us that 5-star review, because Fresh and I, we're those 5-star prospects. If you're watching this on the YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the Spinnable Sports YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell and be notified, because you guys will not want to miss this Army-Navy episode coming up here. This is going to be a special one as well. And want to make sure we give a special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. Phenomenal job out of him. And we got some other great stuff coming, because we're not stopping here once college football season's over. We got other things in mind.
Nope. The Army Navy game. It's America's game. It's an exciting spectacle for everyone. Still on the bucket list to get to, but it's a fun time, and it's also Heisman week, and it's a really weird year where there's no clear cut favorite. So it should be a surprise come Saturday night and who hoists that trophy up in New York.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have met a 4-star general who spent years trying to get Army Navy tickets and was not able to get Army Navy tickets.
Yeah, it's a very elite ticket.
Yeah, people don't realize that. People are like, oh, what's the toughest ticket to get? And the answer really is Army Navy. So,
Because you have a chunk of the stadiums, all the cadets and midshipmen.
yeah. All right, folks. We'll be bringing you that episode. That's a very special episode for us. So definitely check that out, and we'll see you then.
Bye, y'all.